So I've been asked by my Viking New Tech students to talk a little bit about the abolitionist reforms in the antebellum period. And the roots of the abolition reform really start way back colonial period with the Quakers, who were very adamantly opposed to slavery in the United States, even before we were the United States. And that follows all the way through to the antebellum period, where the abolitionist reform piece really picks up steam. Pieces that helped it grow momentum were things like Harriet Beecher Stowe's very famous novel Uncle Tom's Cabin, in which she tries to show the horror of slavery without making it too difficult for the reader to read on the surface. And so she begins that story by making it seem like a very pleasant, almost childlike book. And then she layers and layers the evils of slavery, and that book becomes super famous, and almost everyone in the country either reads it or is aware of it. That gains momentum for people who know slavery is a bad thing but don't have any way to visualize it, don't have any way to understand it. At the same time, Garrison has created a newspaper, and the entire theme of the newspaper is the evils of slavery and how the United States needs to overcome that piece. And he is actively encouraging congressmen to vote, like he's calling out specific congressmen for their votes. He's actually calling out pastors who he doesn't believe are spending enough time in the pulpit talking about the evils of slavery. He's calling out businesses who make money based on slavery, even if they're like northern textile mills or using cotton to create the fabric. At the same time, there are people like John Brown, who believe that they have done everything legally that they can do, and the laws are just set in this country in such a way that there is no way to legally overcome it. And so he gathers a group of men, and he literally creates a plan where he's going to create a little militia and go south and by force free the slaves, one plantation at a time, and then get a army of slaves to follow him from plantation to plantation until there's enough mass force that the people in the South will just give up the idea of slavery. That didn't work out really well for him, because he started to get those military pieces by attacking a United States military base, and that's really treason. People don't look on that really well. It actually ends up costing his life, but then he becomes a martyr. And there's a really famous song, Old John Brown's Bodies in the Grave, that people sang through the Civil War. It seems a little creepy to us now, but it was a really powerful piece back in the day. As well as there were a number of people in the Congress who took up the cause, and including a very famous speech by a senator named Sumner, who spoke out and called out senators and congressmen who have made money from slavery actually in the well of the Senate. That didn't work out for him really well either, because one of the men that he called out's nephew was a congressman, and he came over and literally beat Sumner into unconsciousness on the Senate floor with a cane. The South responded by sending canes to that congressman because he broke his cane. This is very close to the moments of actual Civil War. This is then during this time period where Lincoln and Douglas are having the debates about how do we deal with slavery in our country, how do we keep it from expanding, and how do we keep it from destroying the country and creating a civil war. So this is all coming to head at the same time. And then, of course, Lincoln loses that election, but 2 years later becomes President of the United States. And when he becomes President of the United States, immediately before he actually takes office, but when he's elected, South Carolina says, you know what, we can't have you be our president, we've got to go. And they're the first state that breaks away. And then after that, very quickly, several other states break away, and then we're into Civil War. So that's a very quick wrap-up of the abolitionists and how they led to the Civil War and the freedom of the slaves in the 13th and 14th Amendments.